Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Sammy. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Well, in the meantime, alongside of my comedy work, which I'm sure you've been keeping up with, maybe not, I've been doing a lot of financial journalism.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah, great. So I've been telling the world about new and exciting research that helps make an impact. And then I saw your paper called The Impact of Impact Investing. A lot of impact. You used it twice. So I want to help you increase the impact of impact investing, if you know what I mean.
Sammy, I don't want to be rude, but from what I've seen, you're not exactly a financial guru, and not every one of your interviews goes that well.
What are you talking about? Come on, this one's going well, right?
Yeah, let's just say that's in the eye of the beholder.
You know who you look like? Jeff Ross, the roast master. You seen him? Comedy Central. He roasts people. You look just like him. I get what you're doing. You're doing a Jeff Ross impression, aren't you? All right. Well, how about this? I can roast people too. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I can. How about this? The number of views on my comedy videos to the views on your paper abstracts is what I call LA to Rancho Cucamonga.
Very funny.
Okay, how about this? Your seminar presentations are about as interesting as the promise of a 1 basis point drop in the cost of capital to a startup CFO.
As I said, Sammy, you're not exactly a financial guru.
All right, how about this? I can go lower. Fine. If the R squareds in table 3 of your paper were any lower, you'd be breaking laws of mathematics. Mic drop.
Really? Wait? Oh, sorry. Wait? You actually looked at my paper?
Well, I do have a math degree from Berkeley, no pun intended, because there wasn't one. So let me ask you this. How would you summarize the message of your paper in 30 seconds?
Suppose you want to invest to make a difference. Let's say you're against pollution. I mean, who isn't? You may be tempted to sell your holdings in companies that pollute. Let's call them dirty companies. And keep all your money in clean companies. What we show that is that even if all investors who are against dirty companies sell their stock, this will not make enough of a difference to get dirty companies to change their behavior. Instead, investors like you should hold their shares of the dirty companies and through voting these shares, get the companies to become cleaner.
Okay, in other words, fight, not flight. Huh? That's your paper's contribution?
It is, Sammy, and sometimes things that are obvious after the fact are not so obvious before the fact. I do have to admit, though, it's a rather obvious insight. In the paper, what we do is we actually calculate the impact, and we show that it's a product of three numbers. Okay, the first number is the fraction of dirty companies in the economy. The second number is the ratio of investors who care to investors who don't care. And the third number is a function of the correlation between stocks, the substitutability between stocks, how much people care about holding one stock versus another stock. When you actually take the numbers and you multiply them out, what you find is you get a very small effect.
Okay, hold on. So, how about instead of clean and dirty companies, we consider clean and dirty comedians? You're saying that if the proportion of people who object to dirty jokes is not huge, and if the fraction of comedians who are dirty is not too large, if dirty and clean comedians are otherwise similar, then audiences who decide to boycott dirty comedians will be replaced by other audiences, and so this won't really impact us?
That is the most ridiculous analogy I have ever heard, but basically you're right. That is what's going on. The essentially, if you tell dirty jokes and there are people who object, but most people couldn't care less, then when the people who object leave, other people will buy your tickets and your audience will stay the same. The only way they could have an effect by leaving is if other people didn't like dirty jokes and didn't replace them.
Wow. Wow. This is amazing. I can't wait to show your model to my agent. I love your work, man.
So instead of staying away, those who object to your dirty jokes should come to your shows and heckle you.
Wait, whoa, why?
Look, that's your analogy, not mine.
So, tell me this. What if the vast majority of investors decide to avoid dirty companies?
Well, then the impact would be significant. It would also be significant if dirty companies found themselves in the path of a hurricane. But let's be honest, neither event is particularly likely to happen anytime soon. So in the meanwhile, investors who don't like dirty companies should buy the shares so they can vote to get these companies to change.
But Jonathan, what if some investors view a company as harmful, but others love what it's doing, just like audiences and me?
Go on.
Okay, like cannabis. Okay, the anti-cannabis crowd buys the stock so they can vote against the company's management, but then the pro-cannabis crowd buys the stock too to defend the management.
Okay.
As a result, the company's stock price is now sky high, like its customers and me.
Interesting.
Seeing this, other companies start growing cannabis too. And in the meantime, my production company, KO Comedy, shout out, makes a hit reality TV series about this whole thing called Business Goes to Pot, leading to further investor frenzy.
Yeah, this is insane. If it worked, it would destroy investor confidence in financial markets.
Exactly. So, are you going to invest in KO Comedy then? Become a shareholder? Tell us not to do it? Fantastic. Well, while he's calling his banker, I'm going to do a quick valuation.